YouTube and on recording in my podcast that'll be posted on SoundCloud. If you are looking for the podcast version of this ridiculous little show, it is on SoundCloud. I am Greg Romero Wilson, your expert in comedy, your failure in life, and right now I'm a fantasy football enthusiast, but I got to tell you right now I'm a fantasy football loser. My teams have gotten off to a real slow start. 1-1 and two teams 0-2, and so, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy it any less. That doesn't mean I'm not studying it as much. I just had some bad bets. I really believed going into this season that Adrian Peterson was going to be the flex player of the century. I thought he would, just go off some games, always give you a couple of points, but it's obviously the chemistry is very bad there. I had David Johnson get injured. I had Ajayi was unavailable in 2 leagues, the first week. So I've had a lot of things kind of going nutso. Martellus Bennett hasn't quite found it, but this is it. This is it. Week 3, third time's the charm. And I got to tell you something. As a theory, as a concept, I genuinely believe in the third time's the charm concept, because that is the process of perfection. You go a little short, you go a little long, and then you find the right place right in the middle. And I feel like this doesn't just apply to me and my teams. This applies to so many players this week in the NFL. But before we get into those, actually, let's go ahead and get into those right now. And as we go, we'll also talk about last night's Thursday night's game about between the Rams and the Niners. I got to tell you, folks, we got to start taking them seriously. As weird as that is, we have to start taking them seriously. The two new coaches, Kyle Shanahan and that guy that used to be the lead singer in Sugar Ray, is somehow now coaching the Rams. And and this kid's pretty good. I mean, they've both changed the culture. They've come in and they've absolutely changed the culture to where these guys are playing hard. They believe. Carlos Hyde. Let's just talk about Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde, for the last couple of seasons, has received the exact same, in fact, more hype than he did going into this season. Everyone was like, this is the year, man. You better get Carlos Hyde. This is the year. And both those years he disappointed. But guess what? Third time's the charm. And this season, under Kyle Shanahan, under this coach, these guys, I mean, they are believing, and it shows on the field. Carlos Hyde looks fantastic. If you drafted him, kudos to you. I didn't trust him because of his underperformances the last 2 seasons. But man, he's come alive. And now, I did say Gurley was going to have a huge bounce-back season, and boy, was it, especially last night. 3 touchdowns, 146 yards or some shit. What a performance. No matter how good Ajayi does this weekend, and he's up against the Jets, so I think he will have an amazing day. I don't know if he's going to be able to beat that performance by Gurley. And he's one of those guys that I wish I picked up. I wish I grabbed him instead of Jordan Howard, which turned out to be a total fucking... Right now, he's a bust. Let's see where this season goes. It's a long season. I got him on my bench, but he's not somebody that I'm going to put on the waiver wire. And the same is true with Adrian Peterson. I know everybody, but I believe, and I've said this before, I do believe that he will get traded to a team that needs him at some point, and that team will put him to his proper use. And down the back half of the stretch, he may actually turn into the player that I need him to be. Now, it may be too late for me at that point. If I'm 0-6, I doubt I'll run to the tables, but God bless it. Thank God we have daily fantasy, right? Daily fantasy, I finally got into it this week, because of course, I don't do it the first 2 weeks because I got to see how these pieces and parts are moving. You got to get through a couple injuries, see who's actually showing up. So now, that being said, what a game. I went on Twitter and I was like, remember when Thursday Night Football was an event and now it's just turned into the NFL's weekly dumpster fire? Well, they fucking came. I'm one of those guys. I can't say shit. When it comes to shit talking, the second I start talking shit is the second everything falls to shit for me. I'm one of those guys that has to sit there and be earnest about everything. Otherwise, it just ain't going to go right. I'm not a braggart. I would love to be a braggart, but I'm not a braggart. I can only brag after the fact. Now, after the fact, you're going to hear some shit from me. But if I go bragging beforehand, it sets me up for a fall every fucking time, just like the Patriots on opening night. Okay. You thump your chest too hard, and you just end up looking like an idiot. So I'm not saying shit. Hopefully my team's come alive. I expect some big things this week. I should have won last week. Jordy Nelson went out on me, and if just one thing after another. And that's the thing. These other guys that are 2-0, the injury bug just hasn't gotten to them yet. Don't worry. It's how you build that bench. That bench is so important. You got to hold on to some key pieces because this injury bug comes for everybody, and that's what makes the difference down the stretch. Okay. That being said, now let's talk about third time's the charm. These are the players. Game 3, they either show up or they deflate. And they either show up or blow up. One or the other. Blow up sounds like they're actually doing better than show up. So show up or they just completely deflate. And so these are the guys that I expect to show up here in week 3, and the guys that I think we've seen what we're going to see, and the trajectory is going to continue to fall. So. Number 1, let's just go through the guys I expect to show up. Dalvin Cook. I expect him to show up. I think, the Bradford thing being missing, God, get a better backup than Chase Daniel. Jesus Christ. He's a guy that I used to root for, and now I'm like, get the fuck out of the NFL. You suck. But Dalvin Cook, Bradford is scheduled to come back this week. And if Bradford comes back, well, Dalvin Cook is Stephon Diggs, everybody. But, of course, Stephon Diggs, I think we know what he could do, but Dalvin Cook, I think, shows up. Brandon Cooks. This guy, him and Doug Baldwin are 2 borderline guys for me right now. Because I haven't seen anything to make me believe that they're going to show up. But just the math on the paper, the situation, the talent, they have to show up. So I believe Brandon Cooks. I don't believe in Baldwin. I think Baldwin's a deflate for this season. Although, you can't say that because the reality is the Seattle Seahawks end up doing this. They kind of suck early, and then they end up catching their stride in October and become undefeatable by the end of the season. I made a big trade to get Dak Prescott because Russell Wilson was disappointing me all last season. And then the second I traded for Prescott, he started fucking turning it up. So, Doug Baldwin this week, no, but I think he will at some point become that guy. Somewhere like around week 7. These fucking assholes. Larry Fitzgerald, he has not been great through 3 games, but I think he shows up. Let's be honest, the Dallas secondary stinks. The defense is not, it's not good enough. It is not good enough. Or maybe they just weren't playing with effort, but they look good against the Giants. They look horrible, getting butt fucked up one side of the field, down the other, but I'm still a fan. I'm still going to wear the shit. I don't care. All right, but Larry Fitzgerald, he should show up. Let's see who else. Jared Cook. Jared Cook's been teasing it up there in Oakland. He's, what I mean? I mean, they got such good guys in Crabtree, but the thing is, Amari Cooper, because of the way he's been fucking up, I think that's opening the door for Jared Cook. I think Jared Cook shows up. You've been seeing glimpses of it. The same is true of Martellus Bennett. You've been seeing glimpses of it. Last week, Jordy went out, and he just went to Martellus, and he began to get the chemistry. They began to find each other, and I think you see that this week. I think you see that really go off this week. I like Martellus Bennett to really show up. Le'Veon Bell, this is the week he finally gets on track and really begins to deliver. Although he had a good week last week, I think that showed you where it's going. Kelvin Benjamin, this is another one. Last week began to see it start to happen. He got 6 receptions, 77 yards. It started to come together. I think he really shows up, and he shows the kind of season he's going to have in week 3. Michael Thomas, this is a guy that on paper I don't know how it's not showing up. I don't know how to think that it won't show up. So he's in I think he's going to show up because I guess they had to refine their chemistry without Brandon Cooks. And that's the thing about a 2 that becomes a 1. We saw this with Alshon Jeffrey. A lot of times their success is based on the fact that the secondary cover man is on him. The main guy, the star cover guy, is covering their star receiver. So then you become the star, and all of a sudden the competition gets a lot harder, and you aren't open as often as you were when you were that big number 2. So, which brings me, Michael Thomas, on paper, you got to do it. Which brings me to Alshon Jeffrey. Alshon Jeffrey, I think we're seeing it. It began to come together. Now, he has a very tough matchup against Washington, I believe it was. Or no, they're against the Giants. But Janoris Jenkins is back. So that's going to be very tough for Jeffrey. Tough matchup, but I think it's going to happen. I think he's the clear number 1 there. Okay, here's another guy. This is Terrell Pryor Sr. If you drafted Terrell Pryor Sr., you've been fucking disappointed. Just like Jordan Howard players, we throw him on the pile. The difference is, again, because it's a receiver, not like a running back. A running back's either hitting it or he's not. I think he had no chemistry with Cousins, and I think that's affected the whole team play as a whole. But now I think we're, I don't even know. We haven't even seen it, but it just has to be there. And maybe it takes till week 6. Maybe it never comes together. But we either see something, he either shows up this week or he doesn't. McCaffrey. Listen, this is a guy I was hot for. Of course, I was also hot for Adrian Peterson. But I was also high. Hey, okay, we'll get to Derrick Henry. But McCaffrey was a guy I was so upset when I didn't get him in any of my leagues. I think he looked gorgeous in preseason. I was ready to see this kid really bust him loose. But they haven't done it yet. And a lot of it, I think, is Cam Newton's fault, his inability to matriculate the ball down the field with his arm. And when your passing game isn't doing nothing, that they just stack the box. And they're clearly trying to shut down Christian McCaffrey and force Cam Newton to throw. So he needs to start doing that well. But he's got to show up, and I think he does. I think this is it. Third time's the charm. I think McCaffrey gets loose on a couple of big ones. Tariq Cohen, right? Came out hot, then he kind of cooled off a little bit. And now, he's up against a very tough Pittsburgh team. At least he's at home, but the defense is very, very good. We'll see this really will be very telling about what Tariq Cohen can really do in the NFL. Sometimes these guys come out and they're just fresh, they're excited, you get all their energy, and they fucking do amazing things. And then they face some real defenses who have some tape on them, know how to game plan for him. He gets hit a bunch more times, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, we need that power back again. The guy that can actually fucking take this shit. So we'll see. Cooper Kupp was on my list, and I said, you know what? He's going to show up. I saw it in preseason. I thought he was going to have a big game. Completely wrong about Cooper Kupp. He had 2 receptions for 27 yards. He did not show up the way I thought he would. Derrick Henry. Let's talk about Derrick Henry. This is the last guy I'm going to talk about, and guys I expect to show up. I've been waiting. I've been waiting since his senior year at Alabama. I've been waiting. I made a trade for him last season because I figured at some point DeMarco Murray would go down. He never went down. Had an amazing season. I drafted him in 2 of my 3 leagues this year. Wanted him in all 3, but some other guy was smart enough to get him before me. And so what happens now I find very interesting because this is one of those situations where I don't think you could take Derrick Henry out of the game. I think he's too good. And I've been waiting for this, and this is week 3, and hopefully he gets his turn, man. I hope he gets his turn because I'm playing him, and if he plays, I think the world's about to find out something real about Derrick Henry. I think he's going to do to this season what Ajayi did to last season. So, we'll see. Now let's talk about guys I expect to deflate. Brandon Marshall, you know what? Because he had a shit season at the Jets last year. So if he can have a shit season, he can have a shit season. Right now, it looks like a shit season. That whole offense looks like it's completely all over the map. No running game. I'm not a big believer in Orleans Darkwa, more than Paul Perkins, but I still don't think he makes him that much better. So, Brandon Marshall, I had to throw him on the bench. I picked up Javon Curse instead. Sammy Watkins, I didn't think it was going to go together. I had it right there, big letter, Sammy Watkins. Oh, shit, and this shows you that no matter what you think is true, the sport, that's what's exciting about it, right? You don't know what's going to happen. Who knows what's going to go on with this? So, who knows what goes, Sammy Watkins last night balled out. I think he got two TDs, like 19 receptions, 1,000 fucking, the guy went off. Scored huge points, proved me wrong, but third time's the charm. Third time's the charm. First 2 games, nothing, not really, but you saw little glimmers that they were trying to get him the ball, but I thought he would really rely on his relationship with Cooper Kupp, but no, him and Watkins got it going, although, of course, Watkins wound up in the injury tent at the end of the game because he loves to fucking get injured. That's like his favorite fucking thing on the face of the planet. However, apparently it was a concussion, and I hate to say that in a positive way, but don't worry, just his brain. But he wasn't, I mean, hey, at least it wasn't his foot, at least it wasn't his hamstring, so, he'll get out the cobwebs, and hopefully he'll still play next week. Joe Mixon. I ain't seen it, brother. And that's the thing, I've watched these games, and I mean, yes, they stink as a team. Dalton, I've never ever believed in Dalton. So that doesn't surprise me. But he isn't doing enough to open it up for Joe Mixon. And the few times he's gotten the ball, I haven't seen anything that I'm like, this guy's gonna fucking go. Not seeing it. Jordan Howard, I think he's off in oblivion. I don't know. I hope he turns it around. I loved him last season. But you know, he was hot and cold last season. Like, he came out super hot, then had a couple cold games. That's how I got him in the trade, because he went cold. Then I got him back and he got hot again. But without him getting the reps, a power back needs reps. We see this with Adrian Peterson. We see this with all the featured backs. You know, you need reps to get going. You know, Mark Ingram, you could throw him a little pass. He comes in and out. You know, that is. But guys like that, like Jordan Howard, you know, they need to get a rhythm. They need to get warmed up. They need to scare the defense. They need to be out there as a decoy and as a real threat. And so I don't know. I'm really worried about Jordan Howard just being kind of lost in oblivion at this point. I'm so mad at Brandon Marshall. I wrote his name down twice. Samaj P. I guess P. Ryan. I'd be calling Perrine, but I guess it's P. Ryan. Anyways, I don't know. Is he ever going to play? It looks like Chris Thompson now has the job. So, you know, Deshaun Jackson. You know, if you drafted Deshaun Jackson, you've been playing, you're waiting for something to happen with this guy. At least one long dinger, and it's been very disappointed. But it's game 3. This might be the game. Unfortunately, he's up against Minnesota. However, Minnesota has Xavier Rhodes, a shutdown corner. So if Xavier Rhodes shuts down Mike Evans, don't be surprised if this is the week that Deshaun Jackson hits you a couple home runs. Just like Martavis Bryant last week when they focused on shutting down Antonio Brown. Martavis Bryant fucking exploded, mostly on people's benches. And now, let's get to the part of the show that where I go through guys that I think are going to explode this weekend, guys I just like, guys I don't like, guys I wouldn't touch, and of course, guys I have a wait and see attitude about. So let's start with guys I think explode. Antonio Brown, obviously, I think he's going to have an incredible game. Who are the Steelers up against? Let's see. They're up against Chicago. So yeah, I think everybody in Pittsburgh, although they're on the road, and Ben can be not so good, and the Chicago defense can be good at home, but I think Antonio Brown still explodes, has a massive day. Jordy Nelson, coming back from that quad, I think he has a massive day. I think sitting on the sideline, just watching, I think that definitely will motivate him to come out and really fucking blow shit up. Derrick Henry, I mentioned already. Ajayi, I think is going to have a great game against the Jets, who their main, their star middle pass blocker is out. Wilkerson is, I understand he's out of the game. So if he's out, hot Ajayi, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. I hope, in my dreams. The Rams defense I had tagged to explode against San Francisco, which they did put up 15 fantasy points. They did have a very good day. And listen, when they started the game with that interception that almost went for a pick 6, I was like, oh shit, I fucking knew it. But then, I mean, God, give it to the fucking Niners. They came roaring right back. So, and Brian Hoyer, I said this at the beginning of the season, he's better than people think. Everyone underestimates him. Everybody puts him down. They trade him after he wins playoff games. Nobody gives him a chance. I've always liked Brian Hoyer. He trained under Tom Brady. He knows how to prepare for a game. I was very excited. And you know what? He didn't disappoint. He had a really good game last night, even though they wound up losing, and he threw some interceptions. I think he's got the right attitude for this team. Everyone in the Detroit and Atlanta game, Amir Abdullah, Theo Riddick, Tevin Coleman, like everybody, I think everybody, they all have the potential to explode in that game, and I think multiple people will explode. It might be like a weird combination of like Julio Jones and Tevin Coleman. It could wind up being Sanu or Taylor Gabriel. You just don't know. And of course, Devontae Freeman should do. And on the other side, I mean, I expect Matthew Stafford to. He's a solid, in my opinion, a great DFS play because he's a little bit cheaper, and I think he's going to be throwing the ball all over the field. And I mean, I could see both quarterbacks getting at least 3 passing touchdowns. But both of them might get upwards of 4 or 5. I expect it to be a track meet. Everybody in the Patriots versus the Texans. Nobody on the Texans. Although I like DeAndre Hopkins, I have to play him. I don't like him, actually. He's on my don't like list, I think. But I have to play him because of DeAndre Hopkins. But, I mean, the Patriots take away your best guy, and the best guy is clearly DeAndre Hopkins. So, I don't know what to do here. But I think they will still try and get it. Crabtree, I think, is going to explode again. I think if you're an Amari Cooper owner, get ready for another week of incredible frustration watching Crabtree get all of your shots. That was the sound of me enjoying a little coffee and my Comics Unleashed mug. I did 4 episodes. Okay. And here's a guy I also think is going, I expect, Todd Gurley, I said was going to explode. He's on my list. I was right about that one. Get a few right. I think Tyreek Hill is in a very good position to explode. Let's see, Kansas City. Where are the Chiefs? Where are you guys? Who are you up against again? It's somebody that I feel they have a very good shot against. Oh, no, they're up against the Chargers. Actually, here's the thing. The Chargers have a great, Joey Bosa is the real deal. All-pro, could be Defensive Player of the Year. They got a real good pass rush right there. So I think what it turns into is a lot of short passes to Tyreek Hill that he ends up just down the field. So that's why I like Tyreek Hill and not so much Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt's going to have a lot of face-to-face time with Bosa and his friends there in the Chargers. A guy I think set to explode, 3rd time's a charm, Isaiah Crowell. He came into this season incredibly highly rated. Everybody talking about him. I stayed away from him because on the Browns, I don't trust the Browns. And of course, with Deshaun Kaiser, everyone's stacking the box, forcing him to throw. Very obvious stuff. But this is Indianapolis. And Indianapolis is just not good right now. Now, they should be a little bit better with Kobe Brissett, but they're not that good. So that being the case, I like Isaiah Crowell to explode this week against the Indianapolis Colts. Everyone on the Steelers versus Chicago. They will also explode. That should happen. Okay. So, now let's go to guys I like. I like Buck Allen versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Jacksonville, although they invested heavily in their defense, like all defenses, they get tired when the offense doesn't generate. And they haven't been. We'll see if that picks up. We'll see if they can get Fournette going. Oh, there's another guy, 3rd time as a charm is Fournette, and I do expect him to show up. So long as he's not injured, I think Fournette's going to show you he's going to show you the guns. But he is going to have a very difficult time against this Ravens defense. This is a very stingy defense against the run. I think, he's going to have a tough time, but I think he will show up is what I'm saying. I don't think he's going to be the star. I don't think he's going to explode, but I think he will show up in terms of, the 3rd time's the charm. You'll see him do well enough. C.J. Anderson I like. Buffalo is very tough against the run, and I believe they're in Buffalo. Let me look at this. Denver. Yes, they are in Buffalo, which will make it a little bit harder. They're not at home. They don't have the advantage of the thin air. That definitely hurts other players a lot more than it hurts them. So C.J. Anderson's going to be seeing a very tough Buffalo defense. But, hey, listen, the guy looks fucking fantastic. He's another guy. To me, C.J. Anderson and Carlos Hyde, these are 2 guys that I wouldn't have touched because I didn't trust the systems they were in. I didn't like the way they played the last couple of seasons. But they're having phenomenal seasons. They're saying, this is my year. Good for them. Wish I had you. Good solid, but Buffalo's a very stingy defense. It'll be very interesting. So I just like him. I don't know if he's going to explode, but I just like him. I like Gillislee. The Patriots are at home against Houston, but Houston has a pretty good defense. I mean, they got, supposedly, they got J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney. So maybe, but at home, actually, I might have to bump up Gillislee to explode. But I definitely like him. I like Zeke Elliott. I think he didn't like last week as much as anybody else, and I think we see a very good Zeke Elliott. Now, Arizona's still a good defense, but I think they're stronger against the pass right now than the run. So, Zeke is borderline explode. In fact, change that. Zeke's going to explode, which sucks because I'm playing against him in my league of record. But hopefully Ajayi can explode too and offset that shit. I like J.J. Nelson. The Dallas D-backs are not very good. The defensive backs, they're not so great. So I like J.J. Nelson, although apparently he might have a slight hamstring issue, which for a guy who's a fucking, speedster, that's a very, very bad thing. I've taken him out of my lineup for this week. If you do not have to play him, you were thinking about putting him in your flex, proceed with caution, because if he does have a hamstring tweak, even a tweak to a speedster can turn into an immediate, one, and then, oh, my leg. And so, be careful. Let's see. I like the Miami defense a lot versus the Jets. I think in daily fantasy they're a very valuable play. Javon Curse, he's all they got. So, Miami isn't that great on defense. So perhaps he gets some looks. He at least gets you some numbers. Good flex option, I think. Witten, now here's the thing, I like Witten, but I don't think he's going to explode like he did last week, and a lot of that has to do with the fact that the running game was doing nothing, so he had to flare out and take that pass. This week he'll be different, expect a lot less. I still like him, but do not expect to see him do this week what he did last week. Gordon, but he's up against Kansas City, which is a phenomenal defense. But he's at home, which kind of helps. They're in StubHub Center. It's real small. So, I mean, while people will be cheering, it won't be like, you know. So I still like him. I like him in that matchup. Just like Kareem Hunt. I like Kareem Hunt. Again, I was talking about him versus the Chargers. And I also like Travis Kelce. Even though, I don't expect him to do what he did last week, but I expect him to still have a very good game. I definitely like him. I like Jack Doyle and T.Y. Hilton versus Cleveland. I do like them because, you know, Kobe Brissett is a very capable guy. He'll have another week to have gotten settled. He clearly feels comfortable going to Doyle, but I think this is the week that he starts going to Hilton, stretching the field just a little bit more. So I like both those guys in that matchup. I love Marshawn Lynch versus Washington. Obviously, they've got him on a pitch count. He's not going to get as many yards total as you'd like, but I think he's going to find the end zone at least once. My feeling twice. I think he gets a two-timer. Stephon Diggs. Bradford looks like he's going to play. This is entirely contingent on Bradford playing. But if Bradford does play, I like Diggs. I do like him a lot. Let's talk about guys I don't like. I don't like Jameis Winston. Now, the guy I'm playing against with Zeke, luckily he's got Winston. Winston's got to go up to Minnesota, you know, which, you know, if Bradford plays, I think it's going to be a very difficult game for Tampa Bay. Because, you know, Minnesota's defense, when the offense is clicking, is a formidable, powerful defense. I don't like DeAndre Hopkins versus the Pats, Fournette versus Baltimore. I didn't like Carlos Hyde versus that LA defense. Well, you showed me, didn't you, Carlos? Mr. Hyde, bring back Dr. Jekyll. Hyde's too powerful. I don't like Demaryius Thomas. I don't like Mariota. He's at home, so he should, but that's Seattle. I don't know if he's seen a rush like the Seattle rush. We'll see. We'll see what Seattle. But Seattle again, because they cannot. It depends on their offense. If their offense sputters, Mariota should be fine. But I don't like him this week. I don't like Amari Cooper for obvious reasons. Mike Evans versus Xavier Rhodes. You still got to play him. You have to play him. But man, it's just not going to be the same. But I still expect him to still do pretty well. Probably something in the neighborhood of like 67 yards and a touchdown. I don't like DeMarco Murray because I think Derrick Henry is starting to eat his pie. I also had Pierre Garçon for the same reason. I thought LA, you know, Thursday nights are often blowouts, and I thought LA was going to come and rumble right over Pierre Garçon in one of the greatest days back in fantasy football. Oh my God. But I have all I don't. And listen, I tend to get more of these right than wrong, but this is just what I saw, and I was wrong about Pierre Garçon. So I was right about Gurley, wrong about Garçon. What are you going to do? Oh no, Beckham, I don't like him. That whole offense is out of rhythm. They have no run game. Aguilar, I don't like. Because he's going to, you know, again, I think the Jeffrey thing's starting to happen. Although, you know, in a game like this where he might be covered by Josh Norman, hey, Aguilar, is that right? Are the Eagles, let me look at this. The Eagles, where are you, buddies? Yes, the Eagles, oh, yes, but they're at home. But yeah, okay, George Jenkins rather should be on Jeffrey, so that might open up Aguilar. We'll see what kind of day he has, but I'm not big on him this week. Guys, I wouldn't touch any of the Seattle running backs. You don't know what's going on there. They haven't been able to get shit going. Chris Carson's supposed to be a new guy, but to be honest, he hadn't looked that great to me. Jimmy Graham, you know, not till that offense picks up. Mostly it's the Seahawks offense. I wouldn't touch I wouldn't touch any of the Giants versus Philly because the Philly defense at home, I think, is going to fucking eat their lunch. Guys, I think we need to wait and see. Deontay Foreman, I think this is the week, you know, up there against the New England Patriots. I think that Deontay Foreman may be the guy that comes in, gets reps, and does something for that team and energize possibly. So let's wait and see. Same with Chris Thompson. Are they going to start giving Samaj P. Ryan? Because it seems like with P. Ryan, he's mostly just been in the doghouse for that fumble. So we'll see if they finally decide, okay, get the fuck in there. Chris Johnson, this is a guy I'd love to play, but he's playing against the Cowboys, which the decision isn't made on that. I picked up Chris Johnson because, you know, he surprised before. He came back and surprised before, so I'm wondering if he could do it again, and if he does, I don't know, because Andre Ellington, to be honest, looked better than both the other two in that match. So it might still just remain a revolving door. Who knows? Marquise Lee, let's wait and see. You know, I mean, it seems like he should get all those, you know, left behind by Allen Robinson. But, you know, if the chemistry's not there, although I like Marquise Lee a lot, but let's wait and see before you go playing him. Rashard Higgins, everybody's excited about this kid, but one game does not a season make. Ertz, I have to wait and see versus the Giants, because I think that the Giants' defense is a better defense, as used to saying. But really, you know, I mean, the Giants' defense is good, but really, Ertz looks so solid right now. I think I'm wrong about this wait and see approach here. I mean, obviously, you got to play him. The guy's a stud. I'm gonna say, don't wait and see on Ertz. Play Ertz, because the Giants' defense will get tired because their offense blows. Kamara, let's see what Kamara does versus Carolina. How much they use him. Let's see what kind of success he has. And Sam Bradford, we got to wait and see if the guy can, first of all, play and then survive an actual season. So that's it. That's what we got. That's what we're talking about. So, you know, if you want to talk about daily fantasy, you want to pick guys that you think are going to explode. That's what I try and do. Look for explosive guys. I have 2 teams going this weekend. One of them I put Cooper Kupp on, and well, we saw how that went. So I still have, you know, some kind of opportunity to do well, but I wouldn't expect much. Anyways, if you have a question about your lineup or anything, I've been made a lot of good calls so far on Twitter. Hit me up at @TheGregWilson, @TheGregWilson on Twitter. Also, while you're there, please retweet the top pinned tweet on my thing. I'm trying to get a Netflix special. That would help me out a lot. So on my profile, please retweet the top pinned tweet. And other than that, if you want to know where I'm going to be sure and follow me on Twitter, because I post where my shows are there. And that is it, you guys. This is the Week 3 preview for Fantasy Football Harsh Reality.